What if one of Jimi Hendrix's most iconic songs, the one that launched his career and made him a household name, was actually the one he never wanted anyone to hear that way? Because behind the psychedelic flames of Hey Joe, there's a story of rebellion, frustration, and artistic defiance that most fans never knew existed. Before Hendrix became the face of guitar godhood, before the feedback screams, the flaming Stratocasters, and the chaos of Woodstock, he was just a restless artist trapped in a system he didn't trust. And when that system told him what his first big single had to be, he hated it. This is the untold story of how Jimi Hendrix accidentally became famous for a song he didn't even want to release, and why, deep down, he believed another track, one most people ignored, was the real expression of who he was. But to understand why Hey Joe wasn't the triumph everyone thought, we have to start at the beginning, back when Hendrix was still an unknown guitarist, chasing freedom in the streets of London, the rebel of rock. In the 1960s, rock and roll wasn't about money. It was about freedom. A new generation of musicians was rising, rejecting the polished pop stars of the past and creating something raw, loud, and unpredictable. They weren't chasing radio hits or contracts. They were chasing chaos, emotion, and truth. And in the middle of that revolution stood Jimi Hendrix, a quiet, misunderstood genius who played the guitar like it was an extension of his soul. Hendrix wasn't thinking about record sales or marketing plans. He was thinking about sound, about colors and feelings, bending every note until it became something otherworldly. He didn't play music, he painted with it. After years of struggling in the US, playing backup for artists who didn't see his potential, Hendrix finally walked away. He left behind the conservative, cookie-cutter American scene and set his sights on London, the epicenter of artistic rebellion. It was a place where rules were meant to be broken, and Hendrix was ready to break all of them. When he arrived, London was already crawling with guitar legends: Keith Richards, Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, all kings of their craft. But the moment Hendrix plugged in his Stratocaster, it was like the entire city stopped breathing. He didn't just play better, he played differently. Every sound he made seemed to come from another planet. Fans, musicians, and even the so-called guitar gods were left stunned. Clapton himself later admitted that seeing Hendrix live for the first time made him question everything he knew about guitar playing. But what really set Hendrix apart wasn't just his skill, it was his mindset. He wasn't in it for fame, fortune, or chart positions. He was an explorer, constantly pushing boundaries, experimenting, and reinventing what rock music could be. And that attitude, that refusal to conform, would soon put him on a collision course with the very people who controlled his future, the record label executives who wanted to turn this musical revolutionary into a commercial product. The London takeover. When Jimi Hendrix landed in London in late 1966, the city was already pulsing with sound. It was the epicenter of the swinging 60s, where fashion, art, and music collided on every corner. Bands like the Rolling Stones, The Who, and Cream ruled the clubs. But even among those giants, nobody was ready for what was about to hit them. Because the moment Hendrix stepped on stage, everything changed. Word spread fast, whispers first, then gasps. A left-handed American nobody had just walked into the London club scene and was outplaying everyone. Crowds packed into tiny rooms just to see him perform, shoulder to shoulder, desperate to witness this new phenomenon. He wasn't flashy for the sake of it. Every move had intent. He'd play the guitar behind his back, with his teeth upside down, not as a gimmick, but as if he and the instrument were one body, one energy. It was primal, hypnotic, and impossible to look away. And the established stars couldn't believe what they were seeing. Keith Richards called him a comet. Jeff Beck said it was like seeing your own funeral. Even Eric Clapton, the so-called god of guitar at the time, was shaken to his core. There's a famous story. After Hendrix jammed with Cream one night, Clapton walked off stage pale and speechless. He lit a cigarette, turned to his bandmate, and simply said, "You never told me he was that f***ing good." In just a few weeks, Jimi Hendrix had gone from being an unknown session player to the most talked-about musician in London. People didn't just admire him, they worshipped him. He was the embodiment of what rock and roll was meant to be: dangerous, unpredictable, and alive. But while the crowds were losing their minds, Hendrix was focused on something else. He wasn't chasing applause, he was chasing sound. Every night, every jam, he was pushing the limits of what a guitar could do. He wasn't trying to be famous. He was trying to discover something new, and that obsession, that relentless drive to create, was what made him different. It was also what made him difficult, because as the buzz grew louder, record labels started circling. They saw dollar signs where Hendrix saw experimentation. They wanted a radio single, a song that could turn this psychedelic firestorm into a chart-topping product. But Hendrix had no interest in writing a hit. He wanted to write truth. And that difference between what Hendrix wanted and what the industry demanded was about to create one of the biggest artistic clashes of his life. Because while the label wanted Hey Joe to make him a star, Jimi wanted something entirely different. Industry clash. As the legend of Jimi Hendrix spread through London, record labels began lining up, eager to sign the man who could seemingly turn electricity into art. Every show felt like history in real time. Guitars burning, minds blown, critics scrambling to describe what they'd just witnessed. But behind all that noise, something darker was brewing. Because while Hendrix was chasing the sound of the future, the industry was chasing one thing: money. The executives didn't see the art. They saw potential profit. They didn't hear the soul. They heard a product. And that's where the trouble began. When Hendrix finally signed with Polydor, it was a deal built on compromise. They gave him creative freedom on paper, but in practice, there was always a catch. The label wanted something they could sell, a single, a hook, something that would get radio airplay and turn this unpredictable American into a marketable star. But Hendrix wasn't built for that world. He didn't care about the charts or the expectations of middle-aged executives in suits. He cared about creation. Albums like Are You Experienced and Electric Ladyland would later prove that, each one a sonic explosion that redefined what music could sound like. But before those masterpieces, Polydor needed an entry point, a song that could introduce Hendrix to the world and make listeners pay attention. That song was Hey Joe. At least, that's what the label decided. For them, it was perfect, catchy, bluesy, with a story simple enough for radio to digest. They believed it was the hit that would put Hendrix on the map. But Hendrix hated the idea. To him, Hey Joe wasn't original. It wasn't one of his songs. He'd taken it from an older American folk tune, and while he transformed it with his signature sound, it still didn't belong to him in the way his own creations did. He wanted something different, something that spoke to who he was, something called Stone Free. And that's where the real battle began, not on the charts, but behind the studio doors. Because when Jimi Hendrix told the label he wanted Stone Free as the A-side, the response was simple: no. The Hey Joe dilemma. When the decision finally came down, it wasn't Hendrix's. Polydor made the call. Hey Joe would be the A-side, the track they believed would sell, the track they thought would make Hendrix a star. And technically, they were right. It did exactly that. But it wasn't the kind of success Hendrix wanted. See, for Jimi, Hey Joe was never his song. It was an old American standard, passed around folk clubs for years, recorded by other artists long before he ever touched it. Sure, his version was electrifying. He turned that dusty ballad into a psychedelic storm. But to him, it still didn't represent his voice, his story, or his rebellion. The track he truly believed in was Stone Free. That was the song he'd written himself, raw, unapologetic, and drenched in the spirit of freedom that defined who he was. It was Hendrix unfiltered. The lyrics screamed independence, stone free to do what I please. It was his personal anthem, a declaration that he refused to be tamed by anyone, even a record label. But Polydor didn't want to hear it. To them, Stone Free was risky. Its references to drugs and counterculture could spark controversy. They needed something safer, something the BBC could actually play. So they buried Stone Free on the B-side, leaving Hey Joe to lead the charge. And that's where the irony hit hardest. The song that represented corporate safety became the one that defined rock rebellion. But behind the scenes, Hendrix wasn't celebrating. He was frustrated, not angry, just quietly aware that his art was being boxed into something he never wanted. He knew Hey Joe would make him famous, but not in the way he wanted to be remembered. Years later, Eric Clapton would shed light on how much that decision bothered Jimi. In an interview with Guitar World in 2008, Clapton revealed that when Hendrix first played Stone Free for him, he was excited. He told Clapton straight up, "This should be the A-side, not Hey Joe." Clapton said the song blew his f***ing mind. He couldn't believe the label didn't hear what he heard. That raw, kinetic energy that captured exactly what Hendrix stood for. But he also knew the truth. They're going to put out Hey Joe because it's commercial. And he was right. The record company didn't care about authenticity. They cared about charts. So while Hey Joe climbed to number 6 in the UK, Stone Free sat quietly on the flip side, a secret message to anyone who actually cared to listen. For those who did, it was obvious. Stone Free wasn't just another track. It was Hendrix's manifesto. And although the world fell in love with Hey Joe, Hendrix himself moved on quickly. He rarely spoke about it, and when he did, it was without much emotion. To him, it was just a means to an end, a stepping stone toward the music he really wanted to make. But for the label, Hey Joe was everything. It was proof that they were right, that Hendrix could sell records, move charts, and make executives rich. And in a cruel twist of fate, that success gave them more power than ever over his career. But Jimi wasn't built to play by their rules. And while the label celebrated their hit single, Hendrix was already looking ahead toward a new kind of sound, a new kind of freedom, and a future where no one would ever tell him what to release again. Because Hey Joe might have made him famous, but Stone Free made him real. Why the label chose otherwise? To understand why Polydor ignored Hendrix's wishes, you have to step inside the mind of a 1960s record executive. Back then, music wasn't about meaning. It was about marketing. And to those men in suits, Hey Joe checked every box. It had a story people could follow, a simple ballad of love, jealousy, and escape. It had structure, melody, and just enough edge to sound exciting without terrifying parents. And most importantly, it sounded safe. By contrast, Stone Free was the opposite of safe. It was wild, loose, and full of coded language that screamed rebellion. Lines about getting high and living stone free weren't exactly subtle. In 1966, that kind of lyric could end careers. The British tabloids were already running stories about the moral corruption of rock music, about how long hair, loud guitars, and LSD were ruining youth culture. The last thing Polydor wanted was to hand them a loaded headline. So they did what big labels always do when faced with real art. They sanitized it. They took the song that captured Hendrix's soul and buried it on the B-side, then pushed Hey Joe to radio stations as the official debut. For Polydor, it wasn't personal, it was business. But for Hendrix, it felt like betrayal. He'd crossed an ocean to escape the creative restraints of the American music scene, only to find himself chained again, this time by people who said they believed in him. Still, Hendrix wasn't the type to fight with words. He fought with sound. If they were going to push Hey Joe, fine. He'd make it so unmistakably his that nobody could ever confuse it for a commercial trick. He twisted the song into something dark, cinematic, and haunting. He stretched the guitar lines until they screamed, poured anguish into every note, and transformed what had once been a folk tune into something otherworldly. And that's the paradox. The label got their hit, but Hendrix made sure it didn't sound like anyone else's. He turned compromise into rebellion. When Hey Joe hit the airwaves, listeners had never heard anything like it. That slow, hypnotic groove, that voice, soulful and weary, yet electrifying. It wasn't just another single, it was a statement. The song rocketed up the charts, landing Hendrix his first real success. To the industry, it was proof he could sell. To Hendrix, it was proof that he could take even the system's rules and bend them to his will. But even as Hey Joe climbed higher, he refused to let the label forget about Stone Free. Every time he performed live, he brought it back. Louder, faster, wilder. He made sure the world heard it, even if it wasn't on the radio. Because for Hendrix, Stone Free wasn't just a song. It was a reminder that no matter how many suits tried to shape him, he'd never be tamed. But success has a way of twisting everything. The more famous Hendrix became, the more pressure the industry put on him to repeat the formula. And while Hey Joe made him a star, it also trapped him in a system he'd sworn to escape. And what came next would prove that fame and freedom rarely coexist, even for someone as unstoppable as Jimi Hendrix. The lost A-side, Stone Free. While Hey Joe climbed the charts and introduced Jimi Hendrix to the world, the real heartbeat of his message lived on the flip side, in a song that the world almost overlooked. That song was Stone Free. From the opening riff, you can hear it, that unfiltered energy, that sense of motion that refuses to sit still. It's not just a song, it's a statement. A declaration from a man who refused to be boxed in by labels, by genres, or by anyone else's rules. The lyrics are raw, restless, and rebellious. Every day in the week, I'm in a different city / if I stay too long, people try to pull me down. It's Hendrix speaking directly to the world, a man in motion, impossible to cage. This wasn't a pop single. It was a philosophy. It was freedom turned into rhythm and electricity. And that freedom was personal. Hendrix had spent years grinding through the American Chitlin circuit, backing artists like Little Richard and the Isley Brothers, often told what to wear, how to play, and when to smile. He'd lived the life of a sideman, invisible, replaceable. Stone Free was him saying, "Never again." The irony? The song that best defined Jimi Hendrix's soul, the one that shouted liberation, was hidden on the B-side of the record the industry thought was safer. But here's the thing about Hendrix. He didn't need the charts to validate him. He didn't need a #1 single to prove his worth. He knew that the people who got it, the true believers, the dreamers, the misfits, would find Stone Free. And they did. At his live shows, Stone Free became an anthem. He stretched it, jammed it, tore it apart, rebuilt it. No two versions were ever the same. It was freedom performed in real time. Hendrix literally playing out his philosophy on stage. Even Eric Clapton later said that when he first heard Stone Free, it blew his mind. Because it wasn't polished or perfect. It was alive. And maybe that's why Hendrix never really cared that Hey Joe was the hit. Hits fade, singles come and go. But a song like Stone Free, that's eternal. That's the kind of song that defines who you are. In the end, the industry got what it wanted, a hit single. But Hendrix got what he wanted, too. A message that couldn't be silenced. Even buried on the B-side, Stone Free outlived the charts. It became a symbol, not of sales, but of spirit. A quiet revolution pressed into vinyl. Because when you strip everything else away, Hendrix wasn't chasing hits. He was chasing freedom, aftermath, and reflection. After Hey Joe hit the charts, Jimi Hendrix was suddenly a star. The world knew his name. Crowds cheered. Headlines screamed. Record executives smiled all the way to the bank. But Hendrix himself? He barely noticed. Fame was never his goal. He didn't play to sell records or climb charts. He played to explore sound, to push boundaries, to discover what a guitar could really do. Hey Joe made him famous, yes, but it didn't define him. The songs he loved, the songs that truly represented him, like Stone Free, were quieter victories. They were the moments where Hendrix was free from compromise, free from expectation, free from the corporate rules that tried to cage him. And those songs, not the hits, were what inspired the next generation of guitarists to pick up their instruments and chase something bigger than fame. It's a paradox that shaped his career. The song he never wanted to be a hit became the anthem that introduced him to the world. The songs he fought to protect became the symbols of his true genius. Even as his fame grew, Hendrix remained untouchable, not in ego, but in spirit. No chart, no contract, no label directive could change the essence of who he was. He had discovered the ultimate freedom, the ability to create on his own terms, whether the world noticed or not. And that's the lesson behind the story of Hey Joe and Stone Free. It's a reminder that sometimes the things that make you famous aren't the things that make you remembered. Sometimes, the greatest triumph isn't in the hits that everyone loves. It's in the work you create when no one is watching. For Hendrix, the charts were fleeting, the critics temporary, and the headlines forgettable. But the music? That's eternal. And maybe that's why, decades later, people still hear a Jimi Hendrix record and feel something they can't put into words. Because every note, every riff, every whispered lyric carries one truth. Jimi Hendrix never played to please anyone but himself. And in doing so, he changed music forever. The irony of greatness. The story of Hey Joe is full of irony. The song that made Jimi Hendrix a household name was never the one he wanted to define him. It wasn't his first choice. It wasn't his true vision. And yet, it became the anthem that introduced the world to his genius. Meanwhile, the songs he poured his soul into, the tracks he believed truly captured his essence, like Stone Free, quietly shaped his legacy in ways charts could never measure. They became the anthems for those who wanted more than hits. They became proof that Hendrix's music wasn't about commercial success. It was about freedom, experimentation, and rebellion. This is the paradox of greatness. Sometimes the world celebrates the thing you didn't intend, while overlooking the masterpiece you fought to protect. Sometimes fame and artistry collide in unexpected ways, creating a legend that is equal parts compromise and defiance. For Hendrix, it didn't matter. He had already won in the ways that truly counted, by staying true to his sound, pushing boundaries, and leaving a body of work that would inspire generations. So the next time you hear Hey Joe or stumble upon Stone Free, remember this. Jimi Hendrix wasn't chasing fame, charts, or approval. He was chasing music, and in that pursuit, he became immortal. Because in the end, the greatest hits aren't always the songs that top the charts. Sometimes, they're the songs that make you feel alive. And Hendrix, whether by accident or design, played them all.